Let's move on to week 2 overreactions. How many overreactions do you guys have each? Just give me a number real quick.
I have 3.
I have 0. It took me. I couldn't really find anything that I overreact. The only thing I could say that was a real overreaction was how many upsets we saw this weekend. That was really it. Like how many teams really came to play. How many games we predicted would be in either a blowout win or just another team outbeating another team, and how we just saw teams fold and crumble. So for me, really, I didn't really have any overreactions. I kept like the same ones I had from week 1. I'm pretty confident about those, but nothing too major for me to really stick my nose in.
Okay, that's great. So now we got 3 with Drew, 4 with Dells, and I also have 4 myself. John, do you have any overreactions for week 2?
I do have a few, but I want you guys to go first so I can let mine kind of build off of y'all.
Okay, haircut, John. Looks nice, man.
Thank you, Rob.
Just look the
Appreciate
back of your neck.
Right?
Yeah, cuts by Carlos and Waldwick. Yes,
That's
I got
Carlos.
I got
Cuts by
Carlos Mendoza.
Hey, what do you know about Carlos Mendoza, man?
I don't know who that is.
He's
That's the Mets manager.
Oh, really? I didn't know. I was just guessing. That's Carlos, Spanish last name. I was just guessing.
I know Carlos Beltran.
Who's
Never
that?
met.
Mets.
Yep, true.
Carlos.
He is a legend. He
All
used
right,
to play
Drew.
for the Yankees too.
Start off with your
Interesting.
week 2 overreaction.
All right, first one up. Malik Neighbors will win offensive rookie of the year. A 64% target share this past weekend. It's the most, I believe, that has been tracked in the modern day of tracking target share. 64%, 10 catches, 18 targets that he saw, goes for over 100 yards and a touchdown. And what sucks about this more than anything too is Malik did have that ball on 4th down that he did drop that essentially gave back the ball to the Commanders, and the Commanders were able to drive down the field and end up kicking the game-winning field goal. Shout out to the kicker for the Commanders, also 7 for 7. Next one. The Patriots will contend for the division title next season. Not this year. I think that the Buffalo Bills, especially after Tua going on IR, Jets looking like shit. I feel like the Bills,
1-1.
This will be their division. There's a chance that we can see the Patriots contend for the 2 spot. That's how elite their defense is. The offensive line's still weak. The lack of weapons is what's holding me back from making that type of statement. But next season, when you can go into the offseason and address your clear holes, your offensive line, maybe you add another weapon to this offense, we can be talking about the New England Patriots winning the AFC East yet again. And my last one is, which I'm sure that I'm not the only one that has this, the New Orleans Saints are going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, and Dennis Allen will be the coach of the year. They are top 3 in every single advanced statistic on the defensive and offensive side. EPA per play, success rate, drop back EPA, rush EPA, both on offense and defense, rush success rate. They have been flawless on both sides of the ball. The 15 straight drives they scored to start their season. The Panthers, you look at that game, and none of us were overly moved by it. Joel, you were maybe moved the most by it because you were high on them, a little bit higher than us coming into the season. But what we all said was, if you go out there and you win versus the Dallas Cowboys, we'll start to have conversations. Not only did you beat the Dallas Cowboys, you bent them over and you had your way with them. So I look at the New Orleans Saints, and we understood the defense was going to be great. Our obvious concern was the offense, the offensive line, and Clint Kubiak has come in and completely changed how they run their team, the amount of play action, the amount of motion that is in this offense. You have Rashid Shaheed. John, I'll always give you credit for that one. Rashid Shaheed's a burner over the top. We haven't even seen Chris Olave be a big part of this offense, and Alvin Kamara reminding people that he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is one of the elite premier talents when it comes to being an elite receiving option, and this season we've seen him become an elite rushing option as well, back to what we saw back in the day from him. So New Orleans Saints are moving the world right now. Right now they are one of the best teams in the NFL, and I can see it happening where they are the top seed in the NFC.
What's crazy is coming into the year, Dennis Allen was the favorite to be the first coach to get fired.
Yep.
And now I don't think it's an overreaction, but it's not crazy. The way that this Saints team is looking, man. I mean, we saw the first like month, 5 weeks of the schedule is difficult, right? They got a game against the Chiefs. They have a couple really tough games coming up. But if they could survive this, number 1 seed is definitely possible. My overreactions, I got 4 here. This one's a little bit weird. I don't think you're going to like this one. This one's a little bit weird. I don't think the Chiefs are going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. I think it's going to be a different team representing the Chiefs. They're 2-0. and 2 of the best wins of the year over the Ravens, over the Bengals, 2 teams that we think are Super Bowl contenders as well. But just when I look at this roster, Pacheco goes down, broken fibula. It might be
Fibula.
There we go. Broken that. He also, I'm not sure if he also had an ankle sprain that went on top of that.
I just saw the broken fibula.
So I don't know if he's going to come back 100%. So this run game is not going to be great. Hollywood Brown is most likely done for the year. There's a chance he comes back for the playoffs, but it's going to be tough to get reacclimated that quick. The defense, of course, we know lost Snead. And I just think there's going to be a different team this year doing it. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to go back to back to back to overcome this year after year after year. I get it. It's KC, it's Patrick Mahomes, but I think there's going to be a different team representing the AFC. My next overreaction, the Giants are going to start off 0-8, and Brian Dable's going to get fired.
Wow.
It's not Brian Dable's fault, but I think the issues he had last offseason, kind of losing the coaching staff a bit, his issues with the Wink Martindale on the sideline, and then they're 0-2 right now. Their next 6 games, Browns, Cowboys, Seahawks, Bengals, Eagles, Steelers. Then they get the Commanders and the Panthers. But those next 6 games, we just saw the Giants lose to the Commanders. And the Commanders just scored 7 field goals, and they were able to win. They didn't even get to the end zone. I think there's a real chance they're 0-8. Probably have a good chance of being a top pick in this 2025 draft as well. This one isn't as of a hot take because I've seen a couple people say, we just talked about it on BR. Mason Rudolph should be starting for the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis has lost them these last 2 games. Yeah. If Mason Rudolph has been the starting quarterback since week 1, the Titans have a strong chance of starting 2-0. You probably don't blow a 17-point lead to the Bears. You don't have the dumb turnovers and sacks you did against the New York Jets in week 2. And if the Titans are sitting 2-0, and you're fighting there with Houston, and the Colts start 0-2, and the Jags don't have a win yet, all of a sudden this Titans are a team that can maybe compete for the division, at a minimum compete for the wild card. And my last overreaction, the Los Angeles Rams are going to have a top 5 draft pick. The injuries are too much. The injuries are way too much. They're 0-2 right now. The offensive line is decimated. The Cardinals have probably, if not the worst pass rush in the NFL. They were all over Matt Stafford in this game. Cooper Kupp is probably going to be out for a minimum of a month, if not longer. Puka Nacua is out for a minimum of 6 weeks. There's no weapons on this offense. The offensive line is decimated, and that was supposed to be their strong suit. The defense is what was going to have to, hold teams to 24 points and hope the offense can score 27 week to week. With so many injuries to this offense, I think this Rams team is really going to go down.
Now, I appreciate your overreaction. You have some cojones to pick against the Chiefs, because I think this year, especially after last season, don't think I forgot about what you guys said about the Chiefs last year. What everybody said about the Chiefs. They're fraudulent. They're not going to win. If there was a year for them not to win, it was last year. So because they won last year, everybody is scared to pick against them this year.
Correct.
Because they won last year.
Yes.
But listen, I don't hate it too much. The Chiefs find ways to win, though. I mean, Patrick Mahomes just played his second worst game of his career, and they just beat the Bengals.
Andrew Curse over to Kansas City. We're riding all the way.
You're a fan of Rashee Rice, so
that
if he gets
is
suspended
my brother.
soon, that might be.
I don't give a fuck. That is my guy. He is insane at football.
He is amazing. Now, my week 2 overreactions, I had to take one out. I have 4, but I'm gonna take one out because I'm gonna just save that for another episode.
Can I also ask? You're taking the field, so it's not just like I got another team. It's just not KC.
Just not KC.
Okay, well, that's kind of lame, but I respect it.
I'm taking 10 teams instead of this one.
Easy.
Like, so if you could give me one team, like off the top of your noggin, that gives you the best chance to beat KC in the AFC chip.
You know who it is?
If you say the New York Jets,
John's Pittsburgh Steelers.
You're kidding.
Nah, fuck with you. I think the Bengals can do it. I still think Baltimore has a chance, and I think as the season goes on, the Jets get better. And Buffalo. My apologies. Buffalo's in that conversation, and Houston's in that. All 5 of those teams have a real chance to do it.
Greatest at the
Can I tell you the team that I think has the best chance?
Buffalo. Or
I think it is. I think that defense is actually
Buffalo
really
Houston.
good. Buffalo.
Okay.
Sorry, that's fair.
Yeah.
He does have 2 squads. I think it's legitimate Buffalo. This defense seems to be a notch better than it was.
It's always us until the defense.
But the offense,
the
offensive weapons. This could be where we start to see Josh Allen enter that next phase of his quarterback development. And we obviously we talked about that when we spoke about Joe Burrow and how we feel like there's another level that he can get to when he's just not trying to make the home run play every time, similar with Josh. And if we start to see that with Josh Allen this season with the lack of weapons, it'll be scary for the rest of the league.
We'll talk about the Chiefs more in depth later when we have our 2-0 topic. Of course, they're real, but I think there are some things that we got to bring up with that team that could maybe derail them if there is something that will derail them. Now, my week 2 overreactions, the Minnesota Vikings can win the NFC North. I think they're that good.
It's a really good one.
They have a top 3 coaching staff in the NFL. I think Brian Flores is a head coach, but he's a defense coordinator because of the way he handled the quarterback situation in Miami, but also because he filed a lawsuit against the NFL, and they definitely blackballed him for that. But he's shown time and time again that he can get the best out of personnel, and the way that he confused this 49ers offense was something that I haven't seen done. I mean, he is a mastermind. He's that good, and that defense gives that Vikings team a chance to win every single game. And then for the offense, if Sam Darnold can continue to play at a baseline level, and you're going to get Jordan Addison with TJ Hawkinson back eventually, when you have Jettas, Hawkinson, and Addison, and Aaron Jones all healthy, and Todd Chandler is also playing really well.
Very well.
I mean, this team looks really damn good, and with the Lions, we're seeing some chinks in their armor.
Naylor's been solid
right
too.
now, Jared Goff.
You always knew, man. Good call on Sam Darnold.
Right now, Jared Goff is not playing well. Jared Goff, under pressure, he is a bad quarterback, and the numbers have supported that for years now. Detroit was able to mask it because it had an elite offensive line, but this year the Lions' offensive line looks to have regressed, and if that happens, that's a major problem for Jared Goff and their offense moving forward. My other overreaction, I think the Arizona Cardinals finished with a top 5 offense in the NFL.
Cook.
I don't think there are
That's not an overreaction, truthfully.
It's not. I mean, their offense is electric when you have Marvin, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Trey McBride, James Conner in the backfield, and Kyler Murray, who is an explosive play machine. There are not 5 offenses that I think not only will be more productive, but are going to be more fun to watch this year than Arizona. I think Arizona is a top 3 team to watch just because of how electric they are on offense. And my last overreaction, I ruffled some feathers with this on Twitter, but Geno Smith is a top 10 quarterback, and we got to start respecting his game even more because it gets overlooked. There are some elite traits that people miss out with his game. This year, it's only been 2 games, of course, but I'm going to also use stats from last year. This year, Geno Smith, he is pressured the fastest of any quarterback in the NFL. He's still 5th in success rate. This year, the Seahawks have the 31st pass block win rate. Geno Smith is 4th in QBR. Against New England, an elite defense, they blitzed him 12 times. He was 10 for 12, 170 yards, 1 touchdown. He was that good. But I think the best part of Geno Smith's game that gets overlooked is his sack avoidance. Is his pocket presence. There are 2 quarterbacks only that had a better pressure to sack rate in the NFL last year than Geno Smith. It was Patrick Mahomes and it was Josh Allen. When we talk about Geno Smith, his ability to avoid sacks is on that elite level like Allen and Mahomes, and that's what separates him, and that's what's been able to mask this offensive line. This offensive line was bad last year, but Geno Smith led the league in game-winning drives. Geno Smith is an elevator, and the way that he played against New England, he carried them to that victory. He absolutely carried them. Yes, you had big games from JSN and DK Metcalf, but when you see the throws that Geno was making, when you saw the way he was evading pocket and maneuvering through pressure, I mean, he played a perfect game, and there are not 10 quarterbacks that I would take right now in this moment over Geno Smith as my quarterback.
So you know how the show goes. You say a statement like that, I got to give you 10 quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes.
Of course. Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
Joey B.
Joe Burrow.
CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud.
Kyler Murray.
Geno Smith. I'm going with Geno Smith.
Herbert.
Okay. Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson.
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert.
See, now that's an interesting one. So Kyler is easy. We're taking Justin Herbert also easy.
Justin Herbert is in the worst offensive situation.
And I agree. I think Justin Herbert's better than Geno Smith. But Kyler Murray, what has he shown you to say that he's not better than him?
Oh, I have to see him healthy for a full year.
So it's the injury?
It's not the injury. That's not just the only thing. Kyler Murray last year as a passer when he came back wasn't the best. He was average at best. Right. But now this year he has weapons. So I want to see him with a full year under his belt, and I want to see him play well. We haven't seen a full year of Kyler Murray playing well in almost 2.5 seasons. So I have to see that. But Geno Smith, even pound for pound, quarterbacking with Kyler Murray, something that's underrated. Ryan Grubb is giving Geno full control of the command of this offense for Seattle. Geno Smith, on multiple occasions, he checked out of plays against New England and got them to the right look to shred New England's defense. That's a sort of command that doesn't get just brought to any quarterback. He has that, but also Geno Smith can exploit every area of the field. Kyler Murray doesn't throw to the middle of the field. That's still something that he does not do. He's exceptional at throwing outside the numbers and evading sacks, but he's also not as good as evading sacks as Geno Smith. Geno Smith is better at that.
Jordan Love.
Geno Smith.
Dak Prescott. Ooh, wow.
MVP.
I just
Jordan Love was in top 7 conversations with you.
It's the same thing. Jordan Love, he's hurt right now. I need to see Jordan Love for this entire season when he gets back play at a high level again.
But I mean, you can make your argument
You
that
put Jordan Love at like top 7
12.
conversations after 9 games.
I think when there's a certain tier that Geno Smith is not in, this is the tier. It's Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert.
Matthew Stafford,
I'll put in that tier as well.
Great call.
Those are the 6 quarterbacks. I think Geno Smith can be debated with Dak Prescott.
CJ Stroud.
I think he can be debated with CJ Stroud, just their level of play. You can
Trevor Lawrence.
I think Geno Smith is better than Trevor Lawrence right now. He's playing at a much higher level than him. Geno Smith has been that good. And I love CJ Stroud and I love Jordan Love.
You're not being consistent.
But they had spectacular seasons that were impressive from a 1-year sample size. You got to see it this year. The first 2 games of this year, Geno Smith has been top 6.
Geno Smith 2 years ago was amazing. Last year, he regressed from the previous season.
He was also banged up too, which is not something that you're taking into account.
This first 2 games, he looks back to that 2-year prior 2022 version.
Here's the thing. Geno Smith's numbers on the surface level didn't look great last year. He led the NFL in game-winning drives. He was 2nd in big-time throw percentage. He was 7th in big-time throws. He had the 2nd most big-time throws on throws 20-plus yards down the field. He had a top 3 bottom sack rate with Mahomes and Josh Allen, so he was elite at avoiding sacks. And also, EJ Snyder, who's a co-host of the Bootleg Football Podcast, he's a co-host with Brett Coleman there. They do amazing work. He came up with this team composite score, and it basically measures the help that you're getting from your teammates. Geno Smith ranked 24th. When you look at NFL ranks by down, on 1st and 2nd down, Geno Smith was 5th in QBR, 2nd in completion percentage over expectation, and 2nd in EPA per dropback. On 3rd down, he was 21st in QBR, 17th in completion percentage over expectation, and 22nd in EPA per dropback. Now, the numbers look so different on 1st and 2nd down compared to 3rd down because Shane Waldron had no plan for pressure for Seattle last year. And Geno Smith was not allowed the freedom he has this year in last year's system. And we're seeing what Shane Waldron is doing right now in Chicago, where the Bears look oblivious against pressure. That's what Geno Smith dealt with all year long last year. But all those advanced numbers on early downs and big-time throws, Geno Smith was elite at. He was that good. And then this year, he's starting off at an amazing pace.
So, I mean,
right
it
now.
Sounds like he's like the 8th best quarterback in the league right now.
Yes, Geno Smith is top 10 for me. I think, yes, you could debate Jordan Love. You could debate CJ Stroud. I think Kyler Murray's in conversation. Dak Prescott's in conversation. But Geno Smith, what I'm saying is he's in the conversation. He's in that conversation. And when we talk about, like, after the top 6, all those guys are pretty much interchangeable. And then we get to the next tier with the Jared Goffs and the Tuas, and I think Purdy's probably like a step above those guys.
The only thing that I have issue with in this conversation is you taking him over Jordan Love.
Jordan Love.
Because of you.
Jordan Love.
You're the only reason I have a problem with this.
Listen, Jordan Love is amazing. I think he's going to be elite. I think he's going to be spectacular. Right now, he's hurt. First game of the season, he looked a bit rough. The field was bad, though. But I have to see him healthy. He played a great elite. He was a top 3 quarterback in the second half of the season, and I thought he was better than what people give him credit for in the first half of the season. But Jordan Love is not as accurate as Geno Smith. Jordan Love is great at avoiding sacks, but he's not like Geno Smith. He's not that quite elite. The Packers last year were 2nd in pass block win rate. They had a great pass blocking offensive line. When I take into account all the circumstances Geno Smith has had to overcome, and he still continues to play at a high level and give the Seahawks a chance to win, I have to take that into account.
So let me ask this question. So you don't think, because I feel like you knew all of this a month ago. Like, this information was out there. It was evident. First, let me start by saying you are the Geno Smith guy. I'm going to not take that away from you. You've been higher on Geno Smith than probably anybody I've ever met in football in my life. That's your dude. You knew all this information a month ago, and you still put Jordan Love in that top 7 conversation, even though Geno Smith was elite at all these traits that you mentioned. He was like all the stuff. I don't even remember the stuff you just said. You said a whole lot of stuff about Geno Smith being great, but you knew all this. It took you 2 games to vault Geno Smith in the top 7 talk. That's my only situation. My only problem is the lack of consistency that comes with the conversation. Because I feel like those tops, like you mentioned, those top 6 are untouched. Like the Herberts, the Staffords, the Lamar, those guys are untouched. But I feel like those other guys, the Dax, who just is coming off an MVP season, now he's in a conversation with Geno because of what, 1 bad game or 2 bad games, whatever it was. And then we're talking about the CJ Strouds, who had a historic rookie year. Now because he's played 2 good games, he's in a conversation with Geno. Like, I feel like there is no groundwork to really, keep these conversations consistent. Because although Geno Smith did play great, he was in a dogfight with Denver, and he's in a dogfight in New England. I'm not saying they're horrible teams, but we all feel like Seattle should be beating these teams a little bit. At least Denver, they should be beating them comfortably. And he's not. And that's not to say Geno is not great. He's great in his own right. But at the same time, there's just a lack of consistency that comes with these conversations.
Fair, and I can understand the confusion with that. My rebuttal to that is I don't think Geno is just having these 2 games. I mentioned before, I thought he was great last year.
I agree. Yeah, I mentioned that.
This is the fault in the quarterback list, and this is why I stepped away from doing it. And this is why whenever I make a quarterback list, it's going to be after half a season of a sample size. I'm not going to do it like week to week because things can change and they can vary. When we evaluated Jordan Love and CJ Stroud, a lot of the evaluation comes from what they can be. Also, what they were doing.
For sure.
That's why they were propped up. But it's also, what can they be? Oh, man, he played at this level for this period of time. Okay, if he just keeps improving on this, they could reach that elite company. I'm just going off now, and this is where I've grown. What are they doing now? How do they perform now? On a week-to-week basis, from the seasons that we've had as well, right now, measuring these quarterback skill sets, what can these quarterbacks do that Geno Smith cannot? And when I look at Jordan Love and when I look at CJ Stroud, there are not many things that I look at that they could do that Geno Smith cannot. Geno Smith can do all those things.
But then, friendly conversation. I love it. Before these 2 games, you felt that way. This was a thought process you had in your brain that you probably just didn't want to. Maybe I could be wrong, but you didn't want to. You wanted to wait a little more. If you felt that way prior to this, you still you made a list and you had Jordan Love and CJ Stroud in front of him, which is fine, fair. I'm not mad I'm not even mad. Let me not say that. I'm not confused at the result. I'm confused about how did you get to the result. You know what I'm saying?
Now, even if Geno Smith is below CJ Stroud and Jordan Love, that's 7-8.
Well, I don't
then I think Dak Prescott, he has the cachet.
I don't want to say all the other names in between, but
Dak Prescott has the cachet built up to where, I could take him over Geno Smith, but I also kind of like Geno more than Dak. I think Geno plays more within himself than Dak. Dak, especially in bigger games, can get lost in himself. And that's the biggest concern with me when it comes to Dak Prescott. I think that's a conversation. Geno Smith is in this tier, but even if I put Jordan Love and CJ Stroud over Geno Smith, I think Geno Smith is a top 10 quarterback. What Trevor Lawrence has shown these past couple of, I would say, 16 games, really, we have a full season of him, really not playing that well. And I understand the situation around him isn't great. Look at Seattle's situation.
Also playing injured also.
Yeah.
Yeah, Geno has been. I mean, I just think,
just Geno.
I think
Lawrence.
if Dak got off to a start, or at least the start, and continue what he did last season, I think we would have Dak over him. I also don't think Geno. I get it. Dak doesn't play well in big games. Geno hasn't really been in a game, big playoff moment. The playoff game he lost.
Here's the thing with Dak. If you don't have a playoff moment, or you're Justin Herbert, or you're Lamar Jackson, if you don't have a playoff, either that or that situation, I don't think I could put you over Dak. Because in the regular season, Dak is one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
But Dak Prescott last year, all his numbers came against bad teams. When he faced the Detroit Lions, he wasn't that great.
He was great against Philly.
When he faced the Seahawks, I don't think he played better than Geno in that game.
He was great, though.
He was really good against Seattle.
When we talk about when he played the 49ers, he was terrible. When he played the Bills, he was terrible. Like, all the games that he played really elite in were all the trash, garbage teams. And that's the thing with
Dak.
But
he's the entire offense, and they won, 12 games, won a division. You can't take that away from him.
I mean, listen, I think that Geno
Purdy,
Smith,
too, though. Purdy went out there and really, outside of the Ravens, he went out there and he really play like Brock Purdy.
So I look at Geno Smith, and I don't think that, because we look at the receivers, we say, yeah, he's like filled with talent on the team, but Geno Smith is carrying that offense. And the game against New England was an example of that. Zach Charbonnet
He's terrible.
did not play well at all. I mean,
He's a bad rusher. He's a decent pass catcher, but he cannot run that.
they had less than 50 yards rushing in that game, and they beat an elite defense because Geno Smith completed 75% of his passes over 300 yards and a touchdown. Like Geno's
nice.
Carried them. I know. I think he's a top 10 quarterback, and I think that's pretty stamped. Like Geno Smith has those qualities to me.
Over
and
Kyler,
I think he's going to prove it.
I think it's more than fair to put him in the tier. I don't know if I'd have him in CJ Stroud's tier from what I've seen his rookie year and to start off this year. But
that's a good overreaction.
I think it's more than fair to have him in the tier with the Kylers, the Trevor Lawrences, those guys. I think I don't know. Trevor Lawrence is a different conversation, but I think I would probably still have him a bit more towards the bottom of that tier.
Yes.
Oh, that was another one. We didn't even
say
mention
Jalen Hurts. I would still take Jalen Hurts.
I think Geno Smith is a far better passer than Jalen Hurts. He can handle pressure better than Jalen Hurts.
Jalen's been good against pressure.
He's been good against.
He's been really good against pressure this year, and he got his legs back.
He
got his legs back,
and they should have fucking won last night.
Yeah, he got his legs back.
You're
But
OPOY, man.
We'll wait.
You're second best in the league.
16 drops since 2021.
You know who?
Saquon. 16 drops since 21.
Against who?
Saquon?
Against Atlanta.
He was started off great. The second half,
it was
he was kind of mid.
line.
But
Let me also no. It was one drive. He had 38, 39 yards on one drive, and that was a majority of his rushing.
Yeah, I
yards.
think like
he had 64 on 2 drives. It was 2 drives.
Because I was gonna say his last
Maybe it was
10
drives.
carries, he was only
Every
averaging
big
like 3.5
play
a carry.
it was called back. It was literally.
He did get a few holding calls.
Every
but listen,
play.
if you don't hold, the hold might not be there. You know what I mean?
I can't blame him. You know, it ain't his
but
fault.
if you were just called that last catch, we're getting carried away.
If he catches the ball, nothing is.
Yeah, because then you're 2-0, right? Jalen Hurts has himself one of the best
really
games he's
good
had
game.
over the last
OD.
8 games going
And
back to
Hurts
last
stole the
season.
TD from us, my boy Saquon. He should have had 2 TDs.
Oh, the tush push, yeah. He's got 3 in the fucking first game.
I think he got like 5 now. Yeah, I think he has like 5.
Now, Johnny boy, what are your overreactions?
I've got a good amount. Now, 2 of them that you guys had, Cardinals top 5 offense. I agree that's a good possibility. So far, second. Another one that I think you guys mentioned, Dells. Rams missed the playoffs this year.
wow.
Too many injuries.
That's a top 5 pick, but yeah.
Yeah, I think
correlates.
that's even further. My first one is the Bills represent the AFC in the Super Bowl this year. I look at this offense, and it's brand new. They're no longer force-feeding Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen doesn't have to play hero ball. And right now, we're watching the next evolution in Josh Allen's game, and I love the diversity of their talent on offense. We've seen it for years. It worked for the Packers. It worked for the Chiefs. They have so much talent there. But then defensively, they've had a lot of injuries. That linebacker, Terrell Bernard, has suffered a pec injury. He's going to be out a month. And we know Matt Milano is going to be out probably until December. But what if this Bills team finally catches that break and gets healthy? Because that's the biggest thing, which has held them back in the playoffs. I have a gut feeling this year that luck starts to turn around their favor because they have such a good front seven, and I really like that cornerback room. The next one I have, Doug Peterson will be fired, and the Jaguars, not too long from now, will be searching for a new head coach. And there's a lot of good candidates on the market as we're seeing right now. This team is 1-7 in their last 8 games. That one win, can you guys guess who that's against?
Wasn't it the
Panthers?
Texans?
Don't think hard, Carolina. I mean, there's no life with this team whatsoever. They're poorly designed on offense, and they have not made life easier for Trevor. But Trevor's not playing his best football either. There was a play in their game versus the Browns where he has Brian Thomas wide open off a pick. Doesn't seem he's paying out the pocket. Their execution offensively has been poor. And I look at a team that's had so much draft capital. The first overall pick in back-to-back years. They spent the most money for Incy 2 years ago. There's zero intensity with this team. There's zero heart. And I think they need to make a change. Another one that I have is Sam Darnold, comeback player of the year. Right now, he's the most accurate of his career. He, for his career, was completing 60% of his passes. Right now, he's playing on time. And even though they missed Justin Jefferson at the end of the last game, their top 3 weapons were all gone. They still found a way to win that game.
Good, man.
I've been super impressed with the way he's played, and that's about it for me.